So I am going to go through my lesson plans and my presentation rubric for you. It's going to be kind of out of order because I disperse them between two lessons. You kind of suggested that because it looks better for EdTPA. So right now I kind of have my face and my screen. I hope this works for you. That way you can both visually see what I'm talking about and hear it. So just to begin, the first lesson, this is the second out of the three. I'm going to be talking about lessons 2 and 3 consecutively. And this is for 7th grade social studies on the topic of early civilizations. So just to begin, I did choose to teach. What I was going to teach was going to be my Heads Up social studies vocabulary game. I really liked that, and you did recommend me to actually use that. So just kind of starting with number 1, I do have the sheet here with me so I can kind of make sure I'm hitting all the points for you, just so it's easiest for your grading. So this objective, so students will be able to comprehend and use vocabulary words in order to build upon their understanding and support conclusions of early people's culture and way of life. So right there, I'm already meeting the goals and objectives. They're being addressed. And then if we scroll down, so like I said, it's going to be a little out of order because obviously these aren't going to happen in order as it is on the rubric. So in my creative introduction, I did include number 9, which models the strategy engages students in learning. So here I'm kind of modeling for students the Heads Up game, and I do talk about how where I would give students opportunities to share their experiences with the rest of the class. That way this kind of gets everyone engaged in the learning. It gets them excited about what they're going to learn. And this is actually something I've seen in lessons and I've done myself, where you kind of have that connection with students, like, oh yeah, I've done that at home, and they get really excited, and then they kind of get excited and geared up for what that lesson's going to be for the day. So it's really engaging them in that learning process. Moving down, so behavioral expectations. So in here I did hit number 8, establishes rapport and respect to and among students. This is kind of sprinkled in throughout the entire lesson, as it should be when you're teaching. You should always be establishing that respect between one another and having that rapport between each other. So I said the teacher will also mention that she decided this game would be a good change for the class because they're so respectful of one another, and she thinks they will do really well with the opportunity to have a little fun and loosen up. So this is kind of showing that I respect them as students. They've done a really good job for me, and kind of like building up their confidence and their self-esteem. So I think that's a really good way to kind of have that mutual respect between each other, recognizing how well they've been, so then they feel respected and loved and appreciated. All right, moving down to sharing agenda and objectives. So here you can see that I put objectives will be on the board and read aloud by the teacher. There are a ton of modifications I make. Being a special ed teacher, I think about all my ADD students, autism, low-level readers, high-level readers, gifted and talented. I didn't highlight all of them for you because I feel like that'd be a little redundant because I do have adaptations throughout the entire lesson. However, this one stood out a lot because the teacher is going to read the agenda and the objectives aloud for that low-level reader. That's a physical adaptation I am making within the lesson for my target student. And then moving down, you can see another models the strategy and engages students in learning, number 9. I did put numbers to kind of help you out. The teacher is modeling in front of the class so that students can hear and see what's expected of the game. So I here am modeling the strategy and I think aloud. Moving on, so guided practice. So here I have my scaffolded questions to promote higher order thinking, Bloom's taxonomy kind of questions. So I'm kind of asking, can someone remind me what were the most recent chapters we read? And then moving on, what kind of vocabulary words were in those chapters? Does anyone remember the definitions of those vocabulary words? I want you to think about how you would explain those words in your own to a friend. So that's kind of snowballing and getting more specific for students to have that higher order thinking. And then once again, models the strategy engage students in learning. The teacher will ask for 2 to 3 volunteers to help her out. There's a timer going to be set, and I'm going to hold one of the cards on my head to practice playing the game while modeling in front of the rest of the class. So therefore, I'm demonstrating and engaging students in that learning. And then another modification I made here, the teacher will pretend not to know how to explain a word. I'm going to be a little caught up. I have no idea. I'm stuck. And then I'm going to model how I would switch to the definition cards to help model that for my target students. That way they know that there is another option in the lesson to help them if they feel really stuck. And it kind of shows them that it's okay to be stuck. So I think that's a really good adaptation just in general for any of the students, but also specifically my target students. I have another number 9, models a strategy and engages. I'm going to show students how they are going to model, how they're going to rotate after they guess a word, taking the card off their head and moving to the next youngest player. They'll pick up the vocabulary card and the rest of the group will give clues. Okay, and then number 8, once again, the respect and rapport with students. I'm going to kindly ask for volunteers, give them a big round of applause as a class for being so brave and telling the whole class that this is a really big deal that they came up. It's awesome for them to be able to do this in front of the entire class. Everyone will give them a big round of applause, and I think that's a really good way just to kind of give that respect and kind of show those students that they were brave and they did something that not everyone can go up there and do. Independent practice. So once again, modifies a lesson for targeted students. I have the definition cards in there. Oh, one of my favorites. So any of the winners at the end of one of our rounds receive a huge yeehaw from the rest of the class, just to acknowledge their hard work and that they won. I don't really want to give physical prizes or anything, just because I feel like it's more so this is more of a learning aspect for them, and they need to understand that we're having fun while we're learning and engage them in the learning process, not for physical rewards. So the yellow is kind of hard for you to see, but I connected this to number 4, which is connects personal, cultural, and community assets. So the section of lesson connects to personal, cultural, and community aspects by allowing students to use their personal experiences, knowledge, in order to define the words to their peers. So I thought this was a really good way for students to use their own cultural experiences, home experiences, schema and background knowledge to describe those words to their students, because every student is going to have different connections they've been able to make and opportunities that they've had or used those vocabulary words. So therefore, they can use all those aspects to develop that personalized definition for their peers. And then moving on, number 7, assessment connected to the objective. So this is going to be more of an informal assessment. I'll be walking around while the students are doing their heads up game, and I'm going to see how well they're able to kind of explain and comprehend that vocabulary that we've talked about throughout the lessons, and how they're able to build upon their learning and make those conclusions. And I can tell if they're making those from the reading. So that's number 7. And then once again over here I have my definition cards. I have lots of green. Number 7, assessment. Again, students will be given an exit ticket as an assessment. The exit ticket consists of matching the vocabulary words reviewed with the correct definition. So this is more of a formal assessment that I can just check off right away, see if they know their definitions, and that will be based on the lesson as well. And then if students finish early, they're asked to complete a challenge by using 2 of the words in a sentence from that assessment on the back of their exit ticket. So this is more so aimed towards my gifted and talented student, which I'm going to assume will need that extra challenge or that extra work because they're probably going to get those words extremely quick. Therefore, we're using that entire class time and giving them an opportunity to show their knowledge in another way. All right, so now the lesson following this is going to be more of the critical thinking paradigm lesson. I felt that this followed the vocabulary words really well. It was more so expanding your knowledge and thinking more personally about what was learned. So one thing that what hasn't been addressed yet is number 3, deepens learning and links prior learning to new concepts. So there will be crops or plants the students have already learned about in their readings or have background knowledge and schema on. This is going to deepen their learning by linking this prior knowledge to new concepts that they're going to learn in their reading for today, for this lesson. Going down. Okay, so guided practice. So here we have model subject-specific pedagogy. So this has been talked about in our lessons before, I'm assuming. I'm just saying, because I would talk to my students about how we would analyze historical texts or early civilizations. But after I read the short section of text, the teacher is going to model the subject-specific pedagogy by explaining how to use a series of questions to kind of learn the full extent of the event and be able to summarize what we learned in the reading. So the questions I would ask would be something like, do I know the answers to who, what, when, and where? Can I summarize how and why? Am I able to make connections to the historical event or society? What did I learn that was new to me? This will then connect with their grapes, which is the assignment we actually made in class. I really like this for early civilizations, so I plugged it into this lesson because this is an anchor chart I would have just hanging in my room. And this is assuming that I would have talked about it before this lesson, but I'm just kind of referring back to it. So that connects with 2 as well, subject specific. And then kind of moving down, so we have some more questions to promote higher order thinking. So I'm going to have students kind of brainstorm possible solutions to the prompt on their critical thinking paradigm. So what are some ways you think you can solve this problem? What would be the steps you would take? And then given the solution to this issue, what are some pros and cons you can think of? Would this be a reliable solution? Is there a better solution you can think of? When you're completing this assignment, I want you to think of the why behind each solution. So this kind of gets their thinking going, creates those higher order thinking questions so that they're digging deeper and deeper into that learning. And then independent practice, so we have 3 here again, deepens learning and links prior knowledge to new concepts. So students are given the opportunity to use their textbook, critical thinking skills, background knowledge, and creativity to complete the thinking paradigm worksheet. So they are really deepening their learning by linking all that prior knowledge, all that new knowledge together to come up with those solutions and answers to the critical thinking paradigm. Okay, and that is what I have for you for my 2 lessons. I think this was really useful for EdTPA. It really makes you look back and think about, oh, I didn't include this, or oh, I really should think about those higher order thinking questions. I'm really glad you're having us do this, and now that I'm explaining it to you, I kind of can think through it more and realize the points that I hit really well or the ones that I didn't as well. So thank you for making us do a video. I think it's really helpful. And I think overall the lesson plans made sense, and I like that it's in sequential order, so you really have to think about, okay, the next day, because that's how teaching is really going to be. So thank you.